Hello, Smite Draft League. How are you? My name is AnthonyMalum, joined by a special guest from the LC team to cast with me tonight, MentalDepressed, and we've got Divine Division, Sunbreakers versus Eclipse, Mental's own division. Mental, how are you? Are you excited to watch your boys?
I am ecstatic. This is like kind of surreal, so I can't wait. These are my boys, so it's gonna be fun.
Fun's all you can ask for, and both teams have so much going on. It will give you plenty to dive deep with us. Give us the fun behind the scenes stuff too, because both teams are kind of fighting the battle of the season slog to get to the end, prepping for playoffs. Sunbreakers, a team that doesn't need to be harped on too much. Everybody from the production team in particular, not just the production team, we're picking to be a top 2 team. Unfortunately for them, are fighting currently to get out of the bottom 3, while Eclipse recently kind of riding a bit of a hot streak and getting better as time goes on, off the back of pocket picks and really clean team play, are starting to make a sprint towards the end of the regular season here.
Yeah, definitely. Sunbreakers. They came out with the first pick overall. They were predicted really highly. And then there's been some crazy stuff happen. Some new faces to the SDL that have really shown that they can hold their own here. Eclipse, I'm kind of favoring because that was my team last season. But yeah, it's gonna be a fun one.
With the first bands coming out, nothing to stand out yet. It's mostly kind of focusing out that meta. You don't want to deal with the Ganesh right now. Raven too much in solo. Thor, the flex pick potential. You know, a lot of times bands like that come out when I don't want to say you're not comfortable picking out comfort picks, but when you don't really worry about somebody's comfort pick when you see the first 6 bands be meta.
Yeah, they're showing to be just typical meta bands, except for that Susano. I think that is a little bit more directed because we typically don't see that first phase unless the enemy has a solid pick on it. But the
For
rest
sure,
are
it
pretty
does
standard.
slip into that second phase a lot. But first pick, Martigris. Doesn't surprise anybody. Getting locked in, getting prioritized. Everybody was kind of praising the while where we didn't have to worry about it, but it is playable again. But with the first pick, do you expect that to go to Nobo or do you expect that to go to Dark? Because Nobo plays a lot of Marty.
Honestly,
Your
I
chances to
do
win
see
the
it going
fight
mid.
have diminished.
That's where most of the time it goes in. There's a Mulan pick, which is kind of like I think more interesting than the Marty pick at this point.
Sure, walk me through it. What do you think what the
Well,
Mulan brings
Mulan
to solo
has
here?
like the early pressure that she dominates in. Definitely has to get a good early start to Mulan, or else she seems to fall off quite quickly. Um,
Let the sound of slaughter
but all
begin!
other than that, Mulan solid early game if they want to backpack off that.
A Kali getting locked in. We haven't seen Kali be played a lot in this recent meta because Kali's so consistently in the top 6 bands. And it got to be picked second here for Eclipse going on YeetOnDaNaeNae. Now, with Kali getting locked in, you're really committing to essentially having no jungle for 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
That's not easy to play around, and never mind. Forget the Kali. Fafnir, hello?
This game is being full of surprises at this point. Fafnir, he's in my opinion, one of the craziest lockdowns. He hit that hammer. Then you also have the dragon form that just has crazy stuns
Where are
as
you
well. I
going?
mean, solid lockdown, solid. I mean, they might be going for double ADC with that, with his buffs.
That is a strength of Nobo, because one of the reasons I brought up that Nobo plays Marty is because I was going to ask if you thought maybe we could see some funkiness in using that Marty as a true flex pick, where it's not even just a flex in terms of trying to bait out the other team's bans, it's a flex in terms of we can use it how we need depending on how the draft goes, where maybe it starts as mid laner, but maybe once you get into that second phase of picks, you're like, hey, maybe we send this Marty over carry and we grab something else. What do you guys think? A lot of options there, which is huge to bring in with, like you said, Fafnir, maybe looking at double ADC, but Geb, always a nice response to those ADCs.
Definitely Yoda. He's been playing it a lot. That is one of his typical comfort picks by the looks of things. It's definitely one of his favorite picks. And also the Marty, I do see it going mid. Just because that is like his spot right now in the meta for Marty picks. But Najah ban coming out from Eclipse too as well.
I like notch up bans. Just making it clean, keeping control of the jungle. You don't want to leave jungle too open, especially for somebody like Vert, because while deep god pools are tough, you still want to get the upper echelon of somebody's god pool under control, and virtually somebody who can play anything from ESET, which we saw early in the season, to a really clean Thor, which we saw banned here. And ooh, Sunbreakers getting rid of the Poseidon. We were actually talking off of camera about the Rizzler's Poseidon on Eclipse. So Sunbreakers being smart with it.
It seems like they're targeting pocket picks right now with the Loki as well coming from Eclipse bans. Vert, he likes his Loki a lot too.
I do
Each
always
team
like
has
getting
done
rid
their
of the
homework.
Loki.
Yeah, they both have done their homework by the looks of things.
They strike me as two teams that would be that way. You know, ACookieNamedJoe, not somebody who's a stranger to this league in particular, so definitely has lots of homework back there. Same thing for Rizzler, and obviously same thing for the Sunbreakers with Virtually, NoboFish, Phoenix. I mean, they're even Dark. These are all people they've been around SDL. So you see both in our more fun stuff, in scouting grounds, you really start to learn somebody's picks. You don't have to watch every game to start to figure out, oh, Virtually really good at Loki and plays Loki a lot. Or, hey, Rizzler's played Poseidon nonstop in these last few weeks and feels like he's winning every time.
And in here, it's being hovered, but I'm guaranteeing it's probably going to be locked in the Freya. ACookieNamedJoe. It wouldn't shock me if that gets locked in.
The Freya brings a lot to late game, but in the last few casts I've
mind.
had, Freya really gets bullied early. So maybe something like an AMC wanting to go for that lane pressure. It's always tough to tell when something it's hovered out. It looks like they're undecided as well,
They
but
do
gonna go
go
with
the
your
Freya.
initial pick. Your guarantee comes true. Lucky for you on your first cast, make it a guarantee it
I
comes
know,
true,
right?
but Freya gets locked in.
See, Freya, it is one ACookieNamedJoe is one of his staple picks. It doesn't shock me in the slightest that came out if it didn't get banned.
I like the Geb. I always like a Geb paired with Freya to kind of keep that early laning phase a bit safer. Now, with the Giannis lock-in, Dark is taking that mid, so looks like it's a Marty ADC.
It looks like you were correct on that one. NoboFish taking that to the ADC lane.
not to toot horns.
I know, right?
But no, with what I really want to talk about is Eclipse is really committing to this late game.
Yeah, they are looking to take this game to 30 plus. That's why the Mulan pick kind of shocks me a little bit. And there's one we don't see often.
I like it. I find myself being a fan of Cirquette. I obviously Cirquette's had an up and down season or year, so to speak.
Yeah.
Starting strong, going down, coming back up, but I especially into this comp because one thing I feel like they were lacking was that kind of hybrid front line because you know your backline damage is going to be there, so you may as well commit to it. And Eclipse actually are going to pull out the double ADC, rocking a Heimdall mid. Obviously going to go to the Rizzler, somebody who is quite fond of the Heimdall.
If it's not the Heimdall, it is the set. They're two of his favorite picks. Doesn't shock me in the slightest that it's coming out. The only thing that does worry me because they did go for an early game comp or an late game comp is that Mulan, since it does peak in the first like 15, 20 minutes.
Maybe they're trying to do some kind of baton pass, but type of thing where Mulan can maybe get them through that awkward early, maybe get to Heimdall mid, and then hope that late game will be around the corner for Eclipse. But it's always really hard to tell in Sunbreakers. I mean, their writing is much more clear on the wall with what they're trying to do, and their team fight will be gross. The Fafnir will certainly be a question mark for the majority of the game. Somebody
I can't
we're
wait to
not
see it.
accustomed to seeing. Yeah,
I can't wait to see this Fafnir. I love seeing Fafnir in games.
I'm only worried about the laning phase.
Exactly, and they have a lot of mobility. They really do. That Fafnir has 2 leaps. The Yanis, of course, being Yanis, can go around the map as much as it pleases. Cirquette it also has a great bit of mobility. They're looking for those rotations, I believe, as well.
We'll have to see how the rotations go early on. There's a lot to look at early on, a lot to look at late from Eclipse. Tons of questions, and they're going to be answered in game. So we'll see you in just a second. Hello, welcome in game between Sunbreakers and Eclipse in the Divine Division. My name is AnthonyMalum, joined by the Divine LC as a special guest casting with me today, MentalDepressed. And I want to start, and I want to take things easy on you at the start here. Let's talk about the laning phase, because we did touch on it a bit, and I want to focus specifically on duo. Because Freya's first couple levels, she is such a target in lane, it is difficult to play.
Exactly. You have the Fafnir Marty coming out, which is very high pressure, and then you're going into a Geb Freya. I wouldn't be shocked if they'd be under their tower after the first wave with how little lane presence they have early. But once Freya gets to like level 3, 4, she doesn't have any problems whatsoever.
That is WolfDotSon rocking the Giannis, so bit of a change up from what we had listed for the roster pregame. So WolfDotSon will be taking us through in the Giannis, and that's somebody I'm excited to see. I feel like we have not seen WolfDotSon be able to rock mid in a while. I feel like I'm accustomed to seeing Wolf on ADC. Bit of trouble in the mid lane, already forced beads out, but was through the portal. It's going to be a first blood for YeetOnDaNaeNae on that Kali. The last character I would think of wanting to give a first blood to would be Kali.
Well, I mean, she does have some early shred with her bleed coming from her 2. So it doesn't shock me.
That kill.
No, you do not. That is a kill you do not want coming early. And it looks like they caught Vert as well.
So it's going to be 2 already.
On
for
this Kali.
the Kali. That's pure danger zone for Sunbreakers. That could lead to a lot of abuse of this Kali. I mean, the faster you get to mid-late game as Kali, the faster you're unstoppable. And like you said, there has been improvements to Kali's early game, which used to not even be something you could consider. It was kind of like Freya, where that early game was not something worth talking about.
I agree 100%. And you also, with both of those deaths coming out from them, they get more pressure to the camps, and it looks like we have a rotation early coming from the Kali to duo.
Yeet's considering it, does also have a shot at that shield buff, so going to take that. A lot of times these junglers really, they kind of play it by ear until they get to lane. They see how much the opposing lane pushes up, but Yeet's going to focus in on that shield buff. We'll trade it out with the support. NoboFish going to get some extra farm there, although Yeet's going to run into virtually, so that's a bit of a problem for the Kali. ACookieNamedJoe also a bit stunned out, in trouble. But both fizzle out, so no interest from Yeet in fighting virtually. Virtually now going to be able to camp out duo, but is sitting on a ward.
Yeah, they have full vision on where he's at right now. He is. They know exactly where this Circuit is, and just as we thought, this Geb and Freya are getting bullied.
They're not being too risky, but YeetOnDaNaeNae may have stepped up too much, but the whoop was perfect from ACookieNamedJoe to help protect YeetOnDaNaeNae. But in the mid lane, the Rizzler picks up WolfDotSon. That's 2 deaths for the Giannis. So a bit behind so far for WolfDotSon, off to a rough start in the Giannis, but thankfully, Giannis is a character that does tend to have a bit of a graceful way to farm around the map, so you can fall behind and still be a present threat.
Yeah, he needs to start getting his farm game on to really close the gap on his back, and we look to see the Circuit going in for an invade on the purple buff.
Another good wolf from ACookieNamedJoe. Really has no interest in dealing with fighting, just wants to use that banish to perfect effect. Going to be a purple buff steal from the Sunbreakers, and are going to get aggressive. Nice taunt from Virtually, but the tower being right there is just too tedious for the Sunbreakers to break through, but they get the steal of the objective. That's what they wanted. They wanted that purple buff. You know, a matter of fact, the game I cast today saw the same story. There was a Freya. The entire goal was, let's keep this Freya starved of farm, especially of that purple buff.
Well, we all know how Freya gets the later the game goes. She's horrifying in the late game, so keeping this Freya locked down and not allowed to get out of hand is honestly should be their top priority at this point. Vert should be sitting on this lane to make sure that Freya sits there and does not get anything.
Virtually is somebody who really likes to kind of pick a side lane. I feel like it tends to be solo for Virtually, and occasionally mid, but I really think it's important, I agree with you, that Freya needs to be a top priority. Rizzler will go aggressive on WolfDotSon, uses the ultimate, but it speeds down, so WolfDotSon continues to be pressured out in that mid lane. Mental, how hard is it on a Giannis to be able to kind of adjust to a wave like that where you're getting focused so hard? Because you do have some nice tools to be able to farm safely.
It's very difficult because Giannis is probably one of the squishiest mid laners because of how much mobility he has. And you kind of have to play it safe, use your portals to go to either campsite to get out. But if you get gone on like that, and it just becomes death really easily if you're not careful with your positioning.
Yeah, it's really not where you want to be, and especially while you don't have your rotations out from Fafnir yet, and even when you do, not going to be the best for it. Virtually does run into Rizzler through space and time to help as well. A portal, but it's beads. Yeet is here for backup. Rizzler still alive, Virtually in trouble now. Stanaway going to join the party just in time for WolfDotSon to get the unstable vortex off. That'll pick up Rizzler. A shell and a dash create the escape for Virtually. A rotation actually came out from that Mulan, but it was a bit too little too late, so damage done already. Rizzler will spend some time in the grayscale to think about what went wrong in that fight. And Mental, what did you see in that fight?
Well, we saw Shell come off from the FAF, which was a great shell. Allowed him to get his escape, make sure Yeet could not dive in and get a possible kill on the WOLFDOTSON. We also saw the positioning of the Fafnir being able to get the stun off, get the disarm, and they secured the kill on the Rizzler. The other thing I would like to mention is that they also closed the gold lead. They're now 100 up onto Eclipse, which it was about 500 down a while ago off those 3 early kills.
Especially around that 6-minute, 5-minute mark in the game, it's really important to kind of establish yourself early and figure out where you want to go from there. The kills are certainly favoring Eclipse, so it's nice to see the gold being kept in check by Sunbreakers. Virtually, actually, going to take a moment to hide. We'll see if they try to make a play on Rizzler. There's been a lot of attention on this mid lane so far, kind of going against what we were looking for. Freya's left alone for a little while. It's now 2 free purple buffs that Freya's been allowed to get without having a million people in lane, which is not great for Nobo. Now the casual one in a bit of trouble. Stanaway going to use that ultimate, but Eclipse is able to back up. They had no interest in fighting, and they weren't going to be baited by the dragon. So nice play call there. I like that. It's rare to see a team retreat like that, especially sometimes in Divine where it becomes a bloodbath.
Yes, Divine is kind of the staple of being a bloodbath in arena matches. So it is kind of a breath of fresh air to see them kind of take back. They know they have to get this to late game, so they can't fight early, and they know that they need to do that. So they have the discipline to sit back and relax for a minute.
I've always felt like Divine is, they almost choose to be chaotic because there is a lot of mechanical skill you can find in Divine. It's never worth writing off. I mean, Immortal tends to be the bridge for me, certainly, in terms of what you see. Sometimes you see those really slow SPL-style games, and other times you see more of an unstoppable game. And Chaos, godlike we know, but Divine's where a lot of the fun sets in for me, and I love to see the mechanics combined with, you know, forget it, we ball attitude.
I completely agree. Also, you get to see the different picks, mainly in Divine.
For sure.
You get to see some stuff you won't see in other divisions. Definitely different. The Vert being probably the king of it, as we see NoboFish getting gone on by YeetOnDaNaeNae.
Gonna be able to use Death from Above to barely escape. Actually cancels it early to make sure he has time to use actual movement speed to get out of there. Casual1 in trouble in solo as well, forced to use that ultimate there just for some safety. Now Yeet still sticking around, runs in the Stanaway, is able to get that shield buff, so big positive for the jungler. Now a dive in solo, Virtually was not leaving without the Mulan's head and is able to pick it up. Does mean Eclipse know where they're at. And Eclipse are going to start rotating over left, not going to get crazy with the Gold Fury, however.
That's what I was talking about with this Mulan pick. If you let the Mulan get ahead, it's got one of the craziest snowball potentials, but if it doesn't really get that crazy start, it kind of sits there, and especially with its ult being used early and had to, as we see YeetOnDaNaeNae.
I love Surcat things, honestly. Oh, this could be dangerous for Virtually. Yeet's got the stun, and yeah, there it is. That was, I mean, I like the strategy. The execution, I could have stood to be a bit stronger from Virtually. Bit of a miscalculation of health there, and Yeet was able to take advantage and picks up the kill. So that's 3 now on that Kali. And we were talking about how dangerous it was to have the first blood. We mentioned how scary it was to have the second killed that early. Now the Golden Blade is gone, or not gone, but you know, you've moved on to your next item. You're starting to actually get the build online. It's even more terrifying somehow at this point to get that Kali kills.
It really is, because it still doesn't have its like full first 3 items, so it's not getting that scary. But it's 3-0. Most characters 3-0 9 minutes in is not looking too easy to touch there. As we have Yoda just coming to sit here and poke out Vert and Stanaway, give intel.
Yeah, just trying to see if they could get a steal on that Oracle. I respect it. Very, very Hindu man approach on that Geb. You know, when I was casting Immortal Seismic Shockwaves, I just constantly saw that Geb just all over the map, deep in the map, getting crazy. ACookieNamedJoe able to get the shield buff away from Nobo. Nobo stepped up to consider a boxing match with Virtually lurking around, but they're not going to be able to dive quite yet. We'll see if Virtually and Nobo can create a new opening. Yeet isn't far away. So if they run into each other, it could lead to some chaos, and Yeet's got blood on the mind.
Really
It's a
does.
rock diff for both of them currently. Yeet realizes it, turns and goes the other way, gonna turn to a purple invade. So kind of awkwardly played, but well played. We'll see if he can get away with it.
I don't
The
think
rest of
he's gonna away.
Sunbreaker is gonna catch up to purple. Blink from Virtually goes forward. They secure the purple. CookieNamedJoe does pop the combo and goes aggressive, but Yeet not an interest quite yet. Kind of an awkward
Through space
exchange,
and
but it could have
time.
gone way worse.
Attempt of snipe on TheCasualOne from WOLFDOTSON with through space and time goes wide.
Yeet's still trying to make plays happen. I respect that. I love that the Kali is trying to make things happen, trying to force the issue. We're about a minute away from Beacon. Usually around that mark, you start to see considerable rotations. You want to check your teleports, see who's got it. There will be a teleport up for Phoenix, so a lot to consider here for Eclipse and how they want to approach this. Same thing for Sunbreakers. But at 11 minutes, it's 2-4 currently. Gold lead just about 200 favoring the Sunbreakers. Things have been calm, but there's writing on the walls of chaos.
Looking at levels, there's one level up in for Phoenix over TheCasualOne on this Mulan. We're sitting even in mid, even in the jungle, a level up on Faf, and a level up on Freya, respectively, currently. So this Beacon fight is pretty even going into it.
A back actually just came out from NoboFish, so I wonder if we're going to see that Marty head mid try to use Death from Above to aid in the Beacon. You never really know what the presence and the care of Beacon will be. Virtually ganking over to TheCasualOne. Casual a bit stepped up. There's the taunt. Ultimate available. It does hit onto the TheCasualOne and not in time for Casual to get away. So Virtually we'll get another kill in that Circuit 2 now there, not to be forgotten about. Beacon gets started up by Eclipse, and Sunbreakers really just have Stanaway there, so what we thought could be a Sunbreakers Beacon quickly turns the other way and turns into a pretty easy Beacon for Eclipse.
A completely unattested Beacon. I honestly don't think that rotation on the Mulan was worth it for those Beacons. People underestimate how much those Beacons really give the entire team. If you get all three of them, it's kind of gross how much it gives.
It is really easy to look past, too. Because especially on that second Beacon, that's the one usually teams kind of concede and forget about. And if a team got the first Beacon, you fought a little bit, you forgot about it, it gets scary quick.
One thing to note is the starter item on Yanis. If he doesn't go alternate timeline, he will overcap on CDR.
That's a bit rough. You want to make sure you're getting the most possible value out of your build, and famously, overcapping CDR, not exactly the play, but, you know, at least the damage will be there. There are some good passives on items as well, but all worth considering. CookieNamedJoe in a bit of trouble Virtually over here with Nobo. Valkyrie's discretion enough to make Virtually back up, but Death from Above is better Freya in response and forces the Aegis out from CookieNamedJoe. Able to get away regardless. Got a bit scary. Never want to see Death from Above launching over you even after the minimal nerfs. Phoenix going to be forced into a 1v3. We'll see how the Colin handles this and what Sunbreakers does on the left side of the map with the information. Phoenix gets sent through the Cosmos. So do we. We're back. Thanks for that ultimate, Rizzler. We love you for it. Phoenix hates him for it. Will fall to the Rizzler. The rest of Sunbreakers don't go for gold. They go for the shield invade and couldn't really get a gank off either. So not the ideal response to such a heavy commitment on Phoenix.
They definitely favored that trade, knocking Phoenix down a little bit. Definitely doesn't help him any, especially with this Mulan getting more money into its backpack. It has a couple unfinished items. I think we were looking at a Manticore spike early, and then he changed his mind. As they go on the Rizzler in mid.
Yeah, in a lot of trouble. Oh, but able to pick up Virtually and trade things out through space and time will secure the Rizzler, though, in response. So unfortunate for Sunbreakers, they lose Virtually because it wasn't a bad play for them to go on Rizzler there, and it is nice for WOLFDOTSON to pick it up, definitely catching up to the Rizzler, currently 3-2 there, and if you look at the charts, things are keeping calm. The biggest difference right now is that experience favoring Eclipse, which we have touched on before. It's currently 4-6 around the 15-minute mark, but no major objectives have even been started yet, Mental. When do you expect to see some teams start to head over to Gold or even Pyro?
Honestly, right about now should be at least a Gold Fury call or a Pyromancer call. Either team is kind of just farming. They both are trying to get their respective items online before taking fights. Yeet's being very aggressive for being on a Kali pick. It's kind of different for the pick of that the goddess.
It's interesting. It's almost like Yeet's still playing around a lead that has diminished since it was a significant lead. So it's interesting to see, not bad whatsoever, but just interesting to see that playstyle. Curious how it will help out the Kali. Rizzler able to pick up that tier 1 tower in mid and virtually does not want to let it go for free, but takes a lot of poke in the process. Ultimate used, Rizzler in a lot of trouble. Trying to take virtually out again, but WOLFDOTSON again will clean it up. Nothing Rizzler could do. Virtually going to be okay on the landing. So nice job. Give it a 9 out of 10 on the landing for Vert.
2 ults used. Actually 3, because you do have Stanaway on that FAF transformation. I mean, they're trying to keep the Heimdallr down, which is honestly probably one of their best interests since Freya's now been multiple gank attempts and none of them have succeeded so far. Joe playing super safe and allowing himself to not get caught out. They've shifted their focus onto the Heimdallr in mid, who is a little less mobile.
I think it's important for ACookieNamedJoe to do that. Nobo is somebody who, when you watch Nobo enough, you see that Nobo will fight if you fight. But if you don't fight, Nobo's really not going to go crazy to force things unless there's a really clean opportunity. So I like that ACookieNamedJoe is taking that time to farm, making it to that late game where Freya will matter the most, and not really, you know, going crazy, not trying to make something happen and paying to that Marty early game, especially with the items on line. With the next beacon up soon, the last one we saw had barely any contest. I'm curious if we'll see the next one get significant contest. Phoenix, another 1v2. We'll see if there's any response this time from Sunbreakers. Last time there was a noticeable lack of response. Phoenix pulled back in. TheCasualOne and Yeet will combine for it. The kill goes to TheCasualOne. The rest of Eclipse shows up to the beacon, so Sunbreakers lose their solo and don't respond. So it may even lead to a beacon for free. That's not what you want after a gank in solo.
And also, Cirquette is late. She's sitting just coming up to speed buff, so they're looking to get this beacon almost for free.
It almost feels like not a lack of communication, but a lack of awareness from Sunbreakers there on kind of what they want to do. They've really decided these beacons, they're not for them, not that big of a deal. That's 2 beacons already going the way of Eclipse, and that's a pretty significant damage bump in Gold Fury. Now the target for Eclipse, Stanaway, the closest spy to contest. Gold Fury going to be down to half. We'll have some time for Nobo to get there, but it's going to be mostly up to Stanaway at the start, and TheCasualOne's playing good defense, but look out for Nobo. Stanaway in the pit. Eclipse will get it. Through space and time did do some decent damage. Now the follow-up could be good. Redneck Yoda going to fall down to NoboFish. The Sunbreakers will look to push out the rest of Eclipse, not to be taken lightly after that objective was taken. Phoenix and company on TheCasualOne, who's in a lot of trouble here, has nowhere to go. Going to fall, double kill for NoboFish. ACookieNamedJoe could be next up. Forced into that Valkyrie's discretion, but has to come down eventually, and Phoenix will be waiting with Stanaway. Aegis used, WOLFDOTSON tries to reach with Unstable Vortex, but no good. Meanwhile, virtually giving the runaround to Yeet. And Rizzler going to run into virtually as well. And the ultimate's going to find a home. And through the realms, I'm not sure if virtually is going to get out of this one at all. I don't think there was a chance in hell for that. Another unfortunate circumstance for virtually.
Chaos all across the map. Feels like the Divine Division to me.
Yeah. It's fun from this perspective, right? To watch them
I know,
running
right?
around like
Being on this side for once, it's kind of nice.
Not your
you know,
chaos.
they set up for the Gold Fury. They definitely took a risky 50-50 with NoboFish almost stealing it. He could have used the AC-130 to steal away the Gold Fury, but he didn't. And Yeet is still playing like he's with a lead and on a different god.
Yeah, completely unkillable Yeet mentality. Actually playing defense for this Pyromancer that Eclipse is focusing out, and it will be for free. So Pyro goes the way of Eclipse. That gold lead jumping up to 2K just a bit after 19 minutes here. And with a 7 to 8 lead for Eclipse, kills look a lot better than gold. That's a certainty at this point for the Sunbreakers. They really got to clean up the map state, I would say.
Well, also just their objective priority, because that's 2 beacons, a Pyromancer and a Gold Fury going the way of the Eclipse team so far, and they're just looking to get their lead, get into late game. They're trying to build as much money as possible for this Freya, for the Heim. They're looking to do exactly as we thought, get to late game and start shredding.
TheCasualOne going to be the focus of both Virtually and Phoenix. Does have to use the Divine Mastery just to attempt to survive and buy some time. YeetOnDaNaeNae gonna be close by with a Geb shield. Be in time.
Oh.
Blink Cataclysm needs a shield too. The shield finds a home. That's gonna buy time for Yeet to get there, but the stun not gonna find Phoenix, who's able to jump over with the Salmon Leaf, but not able to find the TheCasualOne. So the combination of Yeet and YeetOnDaNaeNae is enough to save the TheCasualOne through space and time. Couldn't even shift the odds there for Sunbreakers. Unfortunate again. I feel like I'm saying that every team fight for the Sunbreakers.
And big shout out to Yoda right there. That Geb blink ult was just beautiful, along with the shield timing. Definitely saved TheCasualOne's life there. It just shows that this Geb is definitely a comfort pick for him.
I feel like a lot of people would have panicked and blinked and then used the shield first. And using that ultimate was a big part of the reason that there was actual survival there. So, like you said, fantastic play and really a really good presence of mind there from YeetOnDaNaeNae.
He's come a long way this season. I've seen multiple games on this Geb, and he's been definitely learning. This is not his main role. He's off-rolling in support this season, and he's doing a great job on it for what he's working with.
Not an easy roll to off-roll. The Sunbreakers now stepping into the Tier 1 tower. They will get that for free. It's not worth contesting and not able to be contested by Eclipse. Rizzler actually split pushing in the mid lane, going to get a Tier 2 through space and time, is sent flying. Rizzler is standing right in it, but does have the crystals up to TP away. So the thought process was really good. Heimdall just is not a counter, but just a convenient character in that circumstance.
I see a couple characters from Eclipse backing, notably the Freya and the Kali as Gold Fury is coming up. Hopefully they're getting prepared for that along with the Sunbreakers. They're taking a Tier 1 tower in mid so far.
Backing around gold respawn, not always ideal, but the Tier 1 gonna be nice for Sunbreakers. They're making a dent in the lead where they can. That Tier 2 did not help things, but they are
as they rotate towards that
better.
Gold Fury.
Yeah, they should look at it, but it's scary. They should at least maybe step up and bait it. What would you think on a bait here?
I think a bait might be ideal with the Mana Core, but it seems like they're committing to it with Fenix.
It's already half health, and Eclipse might be caught sleeping here. It's at a quarter, but they are going to get to the pit. YeetOnDaNaeNae pops the combination, and TheCasualOne's in the ring with the Primal Fury. It's going to go to Eclipse, so that's a massive steal for the red side of things. Nobo with Death from Above to try to make a new opening for Sunbreakers to get some payback for their misfortune. And ACookieNamedJoe could be in trouble. NoboFish going to drop the Freya. Yeet starts out a good play. Gets a pick up on WOLFDOTSON. Double kill for the Kali. Watch out because it's a triple kill for the Kali. And Stanaway is in the sights. And it's going to be a pentakill. Are you kidding me? Unreal pentakill coming off from YeetOnDaNaeNae. Celebration in the Beacon Pit. Mental is Yeet's good luck charm.
What can I say? I'm here. I'm here for my boys. I'm here for the Divine Division, and I love this. Definitely also, they get their third beacon online along with a push to the mid lane. This is looking like a Phoenix push.
Could be more. The pause comes out. That's a really unfortunate pause for the momentum of Eclipse, but it is what it is, and the damage is done there. A pentakill for YeetOnDaNaeNae. That is... you can't really beat pentakills. you really can't. They set you up to potentially end the game. Mental, how can Sunbreakers do anything here? They have 15 seconds for respawns. They're going to lose their Phoenix, and Eclipse are charging quick.
They definitely need to take a breather, relax. They need to get a little bit more farm under their belt, play safer. I think that was a ward diff right there, and mainly, I do think that if they take their mind off of things and they get started, it looks like they did take the Phoenix as the game comes back up.
They're going to head to the Tier 2 tower in a solo lane next. Not going to get overzealous. You know, they could have gotten crazy. Probably would have seen a godlike team push their luck there, and that's why godlike games can go 175 minutes. So Eclipse instead will focus out a reset, maybe setting up for a Fire Giant. You know, this happened with the Eba pentakill this season. Such an early pentakill that it's really easy to kind of forget how early in the game you are. We're only at 24 minutes now, 8-14. 9 kills for that Kali, and a pretty significant gold lead. So they get 9K for Eclipse.
The one thing I do want to mention is what god that pentakill was on. This is on a Kali pre-30 minutes. So that is kind of scary if I was Sunbreakers looking at this pentakill on a Kali. He's already at 23 minutes hitting level 20, fully stacked on his build. That's terrifying. This is
Yeah,
the only,
remember how we
word I
kept
can say.
talking about that? We were saying, oh, it's a little scary. Oh, it's getting frightening. Now it's absolute horror fest. I mean, this is insane. That is a problem. Is such an understatement of what this Kali will now bring for Eclipse. I mean, that's not there. There is potential for that to happen again while there's such a significant lead for Yeet.
If I was Sunbreakers, I would have, and I would be on my back foot. I would not be overextended. I would be taking as safe a fights as possible and keeping my eyes on this Kali as much as humanly possible as they find a pick on the Rizzler.
In a lot of trouble, Death from Above used a two-man stun from behind, Eclipse stepping forward. Phoenix in a lot of trouble, so is Stanaway. Eclipse is grouped up, and they're dishing out numbers. Rizzler going to find a kill onto WOLFDOTSON, and going to find a double kill on Phoenix. Yeet will clean up Stanaway, and things are falling apart quick. Triple kill for the Rizzler. It's a quadra for the Rizzler! Eclipse is clicking today.
T1,
Deicide,
T1.
And
They need tier 1. They need tier 1.
It's guys, you did so good. Guys, you did so good. Anyway, they're going to run it down mid. They've got 20 seconds to do it. This should.
And fire minions.
This should be a sleeper end for Eclipse off the back of not just a penta, but a quadra kill. Rizzler and Yeet combined for dominance. Eclipse are going to take game number 1. See you in the
desk.
That
Geb shield, that gave, oh my god.
All right, Mental, you couldn't even wait. Talk about the Geb, talk about the Penta, talk about the Quadra. Go ahead, go crazy.
That last fight before the end right there, the Rizzler should have died 10 times over. The Marty was autoing as the Geb shield came in from Yoda. It was honestly it was a masterpiece. There was like a master class on that Geb. I harp on supports a little bit heavier. I think they're undervalued as we see a pentakill, a quadra kill come out, but that Geb put in so much work keeping his boys alive.
I can't believe you cast one game in your STL career and you get to be a part of a penta.
It's honestly very nice.
There's gonna be a couple casters that hate you for that. But let's take a look at stats before we head into game number 2. What are the big things that stick out to you? And I also would like to talk to you about the build in WOLFDOTSON, and definitely some changes needed there as the cooldown was significantly overcapped, going Staff of Mirrodin and Spear of Deso with that Sands of Time and Chronos Pendant.
Yeah, a little bit overcapped on CDR. He needed a little more pen to get through like the gods like Redneck Yoda to be able to blast and YeetOnDaNaeNae a little heavier. He kept getting caught out by the Kali and the Rizzler. Definitely needed a little work on that. The Honest should not have been as stationary as he was. He's playing more of like a backlining artillery mage where he needs to be moving around, being unseen, and the only time you're seeing him is as he's blasting you with his 2 ability.
Yeah, you want to be able to reposition, kind of confuse the enemy team, pop out those unstable vortexes, and get really sneaky with it. But with that, we're going to take a quick break before we head into game number 2 between Eclipse and the Sunbreakers. Hello, hello, hello. After an exciting end to game number 1, a quadra from the Rizzler and a pentakill from YeetOnDaNaeNae, I'm AnthonyMalum, and I'm back with MentalDepressed for game number 2 between the Sunbreakers and Eclipse.
I'm glad to be back with you for game 2. Game 1 was definitely very exciting. You know,
Was there
first
anything that
cast
stuck out
was
to you as
great.
shocking? Yeah, crazy for your first cast to be a part of a penta, by the way.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's really nice. Get to see it from this perspective. Shocking. I mean, the collie being alive so early is probably the most shocking part of that game. That collie should have been not let the free range as much as it was.
Yeah, getting through bans and then being able to roam around the map and do as you please is not a combination for success against a collie.
I completely 100% agree, and I honestly think they should have valued that collie pick over the Marty pick.
I would agree with that because the Marty didn't. I mean, the Marty wasn't bad, but it wasn't otherworldly, I would say. The Sunbreaker is going to start off with a Freya ban, which I find interesting, as opposed to maybe a Respect Collie ban there, not wanting to mess with that. They're going to Respect ban the Freya away from ACookieNamedJoe, who had I would say, a kind of quiet game.
ACookieNamedJoe did what he could. He survived multiple ganks. It is a staple pick from him.
Oh,
So
for
them
sure.
sitting at first, they're sitting at first pick, so they might be looking to bait out a collie ban on the enemy team to get it for themselves.
That's a really good point. Marty going to be next off ban, so definitely didn't have an interest in playing it this game. So maybe also kind of feeling that lack of impact. And
And there's
Eclipse
the
actually,
collie
yeah,
ban.
gonna fall for, you called it, could be a potential bait, and gonna fall for it in that scenario and take away the collie from Virtually and also from Yeet. So no return collie after the penta game. That's understandable. I can't think of many times there's been a character and a player that've gotten a penta and SDL and it wasn't respect banned, assuming it didn't end the set.
There is the Sun Wukong picked out first by the Sunbreakers. Very normal pick. Sun Wukong very strong right now. Didn't make the top 6 bans, so it's getting picked first.
Understandable. It basically, if it doesn't win you lane, it wins you rotations. You can do one or the other if it's happening to you, and it's somebody who can comfortably go in proxy, comfortably go for invades. Fantastic soul laner, and to be picked up for Phoenix here, that's pretty significant because that was an eventful solo lane. We saw pretty consistently the TheCasualOne being pressured underneath that tower. Survived it a couple of times too, to their credit.
Your chances to win the fight
I
have
do not like this
diminished.
Mulan pick.
I respect the honesty, but yes, the Mulan is the first lock-in for
Yes,
Eclipse.
it's just because he was already being so pressured out by that Kukulkan last game,
Right.
and Sun Wukong probably has double the pressure as Kukulkan does.
Yeah, don't love that, especially because it seems Sunbreakers were aware of what you mentioned. They were ever present of, we can't let Mulan control this early game. We've got to get something dealt with it, and it worked. Mulan was a non-factor. Mulan wasn't the one to worry about, apparently. But Geb being locked in after, and that was somebody who you had tons of compliments for, played by Redneck Yoda.
Wisdom shall be my
And then an
shield.
Athena lock in on Sunbreaker's side. I think it's a good response to the Geb, the taunt being insane, along with being able to set up for WOLFDOTSON in the mid lane here, so you can land those abilities.
Death comes by night.
I am a big fan. I'm not a big fan of Xbalanque, but I'm a big fan of Athena and Xbalanque as a duo lane. I feel like they play very well into each other's strengths. I mean, Xbalanque is a character who doesn't have the cleanest damage to get off at times. It can feel not awkward, but the poison darts aren't exactly the world's easiest ability to get every proc of. But with an Athena taunting in, it's easier to control what you're dealing out. So I like that pick. Not to mention the global ultimate.
Yeah, exactly. Global ultimates are always
My
nice to have on
weekend
your
shall be
team.
sweet.
Xbalanque, yes, of course, it is kind of hard to get those poison darts, but when you do get the slow off, and then you can keep getting those bolas hitting, it does do a lot of damage over time, and it does it does sneak up on you a little bit. And then the AMC pickup from Eclipse, they hovered it last game, they're picking it this time. Joe loves it. I'm a fan, very big fan of this pick.
I am excited to see the landing phase here. That's a very uncommon landing phase to see AMC versus a Xbalanque. Talking about playing to each other's strengths and weaknesses, I feel like they have just a fascinating matchup to watch because AMC is somebody who is kind of unfazed in terms of being able to escape and work around Xbalanque's awkwardness. You can pretty quickly get out of range, but Xbalanque is somebody who can deal with the honey and the bees like no other can.
AMC likes to just box completely. He doesn't like to back up. He likes to just box you. And Xball has his leap that he can either use it defensively, offensively with those darts dealing extra damage. So I can't wait to see this matchup as well. And then we have a Naja ban, a Morgan Le Fay ban, and that Pocket Poseidon band again away from the Rizzler.
I mean, considering there was a Quadra on the Heim, I'm almost surprised we haven't already seen the second ban be Heim. I mean, sure, it'd be another double ADC, but they didn't face them before, even if one was magical. So it's still worth considering to me. And it makes you wonder how dangerous that Poseidon could really be at its maximum potential.
Except they go for the Hunbats and leave the Heim open for the Rizzler to have the 2 double ADCs, but I think they're not worried about it due to it being a 2 physicals.
Yeah, that would leave a lot lacking. We see it from time and time again. A lot of teams will say they're not phased by it, but when that happens, I feel like you'd agree, Mental. Whenever teams say, "Oh, we'll be fine with 4 physical," it usually doesn't work out.
Well, then you just see a Sov, you see everything piled on to physical defense, and it feels like you can't do anything to anybody.
The ADC's like, "Oh yeah, I can buy berserkers."
Oh, 100%. Like
things got out of control
very quickly. You see some things you thought you'd never see on gods being picked up because it's a 4 phys comp against suddenly your 5 pen items. Yeah, the support's unkillable. Your 5 physical, like your 5 pen items, you're like, how am I still not killing them? It's a horrible time.
A lot of options still for Eclipse. A lot of stuff
There
to
is
figure out.
so much open, and they're using a lot of their bank time, but we are
That may
seeing
be your
a Cleo
undoing.
come out for the jungle and YeetOnDaNaeNae.
It's a different vibe than the Kali, but I it's tough to say I like it more when there's a Penta, but I do really like it into this team comp. I feel like it's going to be able to kind of work around the taunts, work around the front line of Sun Wukong. I like it here.
It can disappear, come out of the wall. I hate playing against it. It feels like a horror game when I play against it.
Yeah,
and then
that's true.
Our favorite furry friend here, Rat, being picked up on Sunbreakers, one of Vert's favorite picks.
Yeah, I'm accustomed to seeing Ratataskers being solo lately, but Vert does play a nice Ratatasker jungle, and Ratatasker jungle isn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. But WOLFDOTSON not going to go for that Giannis this game, going to instead focus in on the Merlin, which should be a strong pick in the mid lane. Always consistent damage, fairly easy to get your damage across. And, with the playstyle we saw from WOLFDOTSON, it would probably complement a Merlin very, very much.
I do also agree with that. I love Merlin personally. He's one of my favorite mid laners to watch and play. Solid. WOLFDOTSON, I'm hoping will have a lot more success on this pick. He kind of was on that Giannis. The build was kind of not there, but I think he'll get a better game coming in game 2. Clear the mental up and move forward. As we see a Hebo hover over for
yeah, I was gonna say
Eclipse.
Divine Division, look away. Any right hum survivors, look away.
I know, right? That game was crazy. It switches to that. Oh, I guess I was wrong.
You see how fun hovers are from casting Mental?
I know, and we used to abuse y'all with those when I played.
Yeah, would you look at that?
I had
that
cubed the
Agni
face
will
on
be
my
locked
team.
in
I
for
had
the
cubed the face on my team, so
for the Rizzler. And with the Agni being the last lock, and I feel like the backline of Eclipse is a very present threat, but you can't forget about that Cleo diving in. But talk me through Sunbreakers, Mental.
Sunbreakers are looking to dive in with the Rat, the Athena. That's 2 global ultimates. You have the Sun Wukong. They're looking to completely obliterate, go past the front line and straight into the back line of Eclipse. Whereas Eclipse is sitting here with two artillery and 1 sneaky Cleo running around. Geb is really going to need to focus on making sure that he keeps those shields ready for his backline if they want any success against this Sunbreaker squad that looks like they are ready to just dive as far as they can.
I agree with that. Certainly. Another key for Sunbreakers to keep in the back of your head. Can they get through any mental drag, any mental wear down from game number 1 being Penta'd? And with that, let's send it in the game. We'll be back in just a second with more action between Eclipse and Sunbreakers. Hi. I missed you. Once again, I'm AnthonyMalum. And once again, I'm joined by MentalDepressed, guest starring with me today, casting through his division, one of our league coordinators, Sunbreakers versus Eclipse. Game 1. The story is pretty obvious. It was a pentakill and then a quadra, almost a penta from the Rizzler. So pure dominance from Eclipse. 10 kills worth of it to go along with the others. And for Sunbreakers, Mental, how difficult do you think it is for them to come into this game with a fresh headspace?
It's going to be one of the harder things to do in Smite comp, is making sure you keep that mental straight, especially after a really devastating loss. It's a struggle. It really is. Like, it almost makes you want to not even try game 2 sometimes, and sometimes you're like, okay, like at 15 we were already mentally wiped and ready for game 2, figuring out what we're going to be picking, figuring out what we're going to be banning. It really depends on your team and who is on it, keeping their mentals in check. Fennec is probably having a fun time doing that as we speak, dealing with the loss and the pentakill and the quadra kill into a really quick game.
It is really, really tough to be, because when that stuff happens, you're going to be part of shorts and clips, and it's going to be talked about. It's always it's an annoying feeling for players, and you always so you always see the players who do it consistently reference back to it and share the clip, but don't ever bring it up to the team that faced it.
It definitely gives some PTSD to some folks that have it done to them. YeetOnDaNaeNae is probably grinning ear to ear into coming into this game too right now.
Ooh, that Tiger hits could be a problem, but not going to find a home on the casual one. Safety for the time being. With Sunbreakers, this laning phase is much better for both sides and much more evenly matched, I would say, as well, than what we saw in Game 1. We were really talking about just the pure dominance that we could see from Sunbreakers. And same story this time with a different jungler this time. It's actually Sunbreakers jungler making their way over early to that shield buff. It was Yeet in game number 1. So they're confirming the aggression on that left side of the map. They're not leaving it up to chance like they did in game 1, where Mental, you were actually looking for Virtually to spend way more time in that duo. Are you looking for the same thing in this game?
Negative. I'm looking for him to sit on solo, sit on TheCasualOne if they want to keep this Mulan down, because now as we look at Vert coming into mid lane onto Rizzler.
Gets a good blink off, uses that flurry, but has to escape. Just not enough damage early on. One of Ratatasker's faults, unfortunately, for Virtually. So it's going to be an escape for the Rizzler, if not a close one at that. Still pressured out in duo as well, so we'll have to keep our eyes on it. So I think you can continue with your point. You want Virtually to focus on solo.
Yeah, because that Mulan is one of the most early characters in the game. I mean, into Sun Wukong, I don't even know if it's the same as if it was into like a Cullen or the Guan Yu or something that's a little more sustaining than the Sun Wukong, who does a lot more damage early, can kind of keep up with the Mulan almost. Mulan, if Vert were to stay on that side and have to keep it as Vert comes in, that was here we go.
First tower got a hit too, but it wasn't enough. That was gross. That was gross. That's one of those, like, it is close enough to where you don't feel too bad if you're the Rizzler, but, it still leads to a first blood going the way of Sunbreakers and still feels bad, certainly. But, yeah, that was really close. There was probably a millisecond, if anything, on that back timer.
Definitely. He was so close to getting out of there. Vert definitely getting one of the sneaky picks of the game, of the set right there. And as I was trying to finish, though, Mulan does need to be shut down if they do want a chance of getting them pushed back into this early game. Sun Wukong needs to snowball. They can get the rat snowballing. They can get NoboFish going. They can really turn this set on its head to go to game 3 and wipe their mentals clean.
Which is going to be required. The Sunbreakers are a team that cannot afford to keep having these unfortunate sets lead to losses, because playoff seeding will matter. It's going to matter who you play against. You don't want to let things fall to the wayside. Virtually going to head into the Cosmos and look for ACookieNamedJoe with a slam down as pre-beats from Cookie, but still problems brewing. Geb Shield to help out too, so Virtually has got to let it go. Redneck Yoda and Yeet both here. Tear the Veil hits Virtually, finds a home. Purple buff gonna body block Virtually, but Virtually is able to get the dash off. So new problems for NoboFish as Geb begins the rollout. Gonna be danger, will be a Geb kill for Redneck Yoda. Cataclysm doesn't get it. Oh, how mean, Yeet. Redneck Yoda worked for that. Now Stanaway in some trouble on that Athena and should fall down. Dash could get off, but it's a nice stop from Yeet, which will lead to the death, and the credit for this one goes to ACookieNamedJoe. So Eclipse spreading the wealth nicely on those 2 kills.
Yes, that was a wonderful rotation by YeetOnDaNaeNae to counter-initiate onto that failed gank by Vert due to that Geb Shield. I can't harp on that Geb Shield more. he is doing such a good job with those shields, keeping his team alive. And then it just allowed Yeet to get over there and to basically come in and clean up.
I really like what I've seen from Red Deck Yoda so far. That's a player who I feel like has been a quietly good player. You know, it's hard to be a flashy, bright, loud support, and like you said, off-rolling, so important to watch there. TheCasualOne getting the focus you were asking for, but virtually could not find just one more auto, so Phoenix going to do their best, and the slam will find it. TheCasualOne going to take a minute in that grayscale to think about what could have gone different, but not a lot of options there, Mental, but at least you're getting what you asked for.
Well, just like I said, they really do need to keep harping on this Mulan to get that Sun Wukong ahead, so that that 12-minute rotation for the first beacon is as smooth as humanly possible for them.
5 minutes, 40 seconds. Hit the clock at 2K gold lead. It's Sunbreaker. 1K, excuse me. 400 experience as well. 2-2 currently, so things calm. Eclipse dominant game 1. Sunbreakers trying to turn things around. TheCasualOne dealing with a lot. A 3-man gank on the blue buff. But it did buy time, and virtually is low. So is Phoenix. Cataclysm comes out to set up for Rizzler, who was unfortunately not looking, so maybe didn't know there was an opportunity there that's going to leave an escape route for the Sunbreakers. Are trying to make it work. Somersault Cloud as well. Stanaway in the most trouble. Can Yeet make something happen out of it? The taunt will spell the end. Rizzler will get the credit on the kill on Stanaway. 3-3 now between Eclipse and Sunbreakers.
You hate to see it, but they are doing exactly as I said, focusing down the solo lane, getting the two cores out, dropping Stably Stanaway, falling on the Athena, but they're doing the best they can with to not get behind as YeetOnDaNaeNae is looking to gank this Merlin through the walls.
You talked about hating that Cleo and what can happen there and playing that horror game. It's not a good time. I think the worst part too isn't just the abilities. It's what Tear the Veil offers to Cleo while being in the walls. It feels like you're against a sneakier Giannis at times.
Sneakier Giannis, but like you're just sitting there like fighting, and then all of a sudden you're like having a screaming banshees wail in your ears, and you go silence, and you're just like, oh, it's a horror game. It turns Smite into a horror game.
It's like you're playing prop hunt.
Where's
Not
the
where you wanna
Cleo?
Yeah, exactly. Now, we've had some calm. We've got some time to look at things before we have what could be a first objective, first beacon. There was a really late objective start on that Gold Fury, so we'll see if that changes this time. And I thought maybe Heat would go for it, but playing pretty conservatively. And that's what I was going to ask you about. We're seeing much more conservative play compared to what we saw in game number 1. And considering how game number 1 ended, it's surprising to see them be so calm.
It's a different build path. I think he's on a stacking item, so he's going to be playing more towards that the third item timer, as a lot of junglers like to play through of. He does have the mechanical skill to do what he wants, of course, but he's going to be looking to stack that Transcendence and get that rocking rolling, whereas Rat's going to be looking to rotate more, seeing that he's going that Yote start and his Acorn, having that cooldown reduction and being able to, as we see some boxing going down in duo.
The Stinger commit from ACookieNamedJoe, trying to win out the best boxing match, actually a fight mid as well. Yeet's going to take on 2 casually and do good damage to WOLFDOTSON. More chaos in the solo lane. Phoenix not getting the better of it this time. However, TheCasualOne's got backup for maybe the first time over there, and the Sunbreakers want no part of it. Gonna step away, but virtually gonna blink in and blink into 3 people who were standing there waiting, able to get away. So far, Red Deck Yoda continues the chase, but it'll be in vain. Not going to be able to do too much on that Geb. Ambitious play there from Virtually. That was something Virtually recently subbed in an Immortal game and played very well on traditional picks. But that was something we were still seeing. We were seeing that aggressive play, that go crazy play as WOLFDOTSON survives some rain fire.
Vert has always been a very aggressive player. He's been one of the traditional aggressive players in the SKL, being here all 3 seasons. Not much else to really talk about. He's been a staple here.
And being a staple, being known for aggression, that does kind of be troublesome sometimes, because what it leads to, and from what I've noticed, is teams just prepared. You know, that they see you standing there, they know you've got Blink as a relic, and they're just kind of ready for you to hold W and hit your relic key and go nuts. So it puts you in some tougher spots, but a lot of times virtually still makes those plays happen in the face of all those people prepared for it. And I think that's where Vert shines the most. Coming up in 10 minutes, currently 3-3. The gold lead hasn't changed much since we last spoke on it. The main theme so far has been what Mental said. It's been camping out the casual one. We're seeing it again, virtually, just hanging out in solo, paying rent, paying HOA, paying a mortgage soon. Waiting. Might call an exterminator while he's over there. Check the ice machine for the grandma. Be polite about it.
Actually, I think he's more doing lawn care at this point. You know, making
Yeah.
sure that those buffs are taken down, clipped down. As we see YeetOnDaNaeNae coming over, being like, okay, this has been enough done over here. I might need to come help out my boy a little bit.
And virtually has already pretty much disappeared, so Phoenix could be in some trouble. Yeet's taken their sweet time, been on a ward this whole time, so Phoenix was unfazed. Also had that Somersault Cloud available, so no real relief for the casual one, but I guess it is nice to not be dove under your tower for a minute or two. That's nice.
Yeah, Yeet's sitting here at a very unfortunate item timing, not finishing the Transcendence stack, also not sitting at a full item on his Hydras, as we're sitting here in mid, and a little bit of skirmishes coming out between both the mid laner and the support of both Team Eclipse and Sunbreakers.
WOLFDOTSON getting a bit aggressive with it. Goes in, Stanaway gets a taunt off, and Redneck Yoda, I think, got more damage than anybody anticipated could be dished out there. So it's going to be a death for the Geb. And a rare sight at that. Did not see Redneck Yoda pop up much in the kill feed, if at all, in game number 1, from what I remember.
He did
nothing
not.
that sticks, nothing that sticks out of my brain. So it's unfamiliar territory for that Geb.
It's
Certainly,
unfortunate because he got
ACookieNamedJoe's pushed out.
taunted into a NoboFish ult. The X-Ball did ult there.
It's unlucky. It's tough. I mean, that's what we talked about. That Xbalanque ultimate gives so much utility. Last time did die one time in game 1, so used to it a little bit, but not enough. YeetOnDaNaeNae in trouble and already gone virtually. Nice gank onto the AMC. With how much they've pushed out the casual one, do you think the damage is done enough to where they can look at that AMC? We got the beacon up, and casual one's here, so maybe that AMC play was good. We'll see at this beacon for certain. Sunbreakers are in it first. Tear the Veil. Gonna look for Stanaway. Actually pressures out the Athena. Looks for a new spot in. Could get a nice taunt here through the Cosmos used. 3-man stun from Redneck Yoda. And it's spread like crazy, and casual one's gonna find Stanaway. Could look for more. Virtually in a lot of trouble. Gonna dash away. Did escape. Phoenix and WOLFDOTSON combining to scare off Eclipse, but they forgot about the beacon ring, which is currently being captured. They do pay attention to it, get there to contest. They'll calm it down a bit, but now AMC is back, and ACookieNamedJoe does some damage to WOLFDOTSON with that stinger. Flicker has to be used, but now has left behind Phoenix, who's going to take on the world in this beacon ring. And WOLFDOTSON actually will finally get dropped by ACookieNamedJoe after a significant delay on it. Not what you want, and beacon will go to Eclipse.
They definitely went to do more objectives this game. It showed they actually showed up to the beacon this time, the first one. So it's not like Sunbreakers figured out what they were doing wrong last game, as Vert gets gone on by Redneck Yoda and the Rizzler.
Was able to get out, was close. That rain fire has been causing really big problems for the Sunbreakers. It just, the spacing that you have to respect with rain fire, I think it might be one of, if not the biggest strength of it. That's such a big circle that you just, I mean, sure, you could face tank it for 1 or maybe 2 hits max if you're squishy enough, but you have to respect it if you don't want to die in the next fight. It's so space consuming that you put yourself so out of position just to avoid damage.
And also, it's always up as well. It's one of those ultimates that the Agni player always has Rainfire. And the later the game this goes, like, maybe they'll tank 1 or 2 now, and they're like, oh, it's not that bad. And then they go to tank the same at 20, 30 minutes, and they're like, half my health bar is gone. It's one of those abilities that kind of sneaks up on you as the game gets later and later.
Yeah, it's kind of a slow burn problem, I would say. It's just uncomfortable. Virtually and Yeet run into each other in the jungle. Vert with the dash onto Yeet, looking to take the fight. Yeet with no interest whatsoever. I mean, that was a stop fangirling me if I've ever seen it. Yeet just does not want to fight in that jungle. Steps away. So things will calm for the time being. Still 5-5. Still 2K goal without a step up, if not barely. 1200 again. You know, I have dyslexia, and I don't like when charts aren't up when I mention gold, and I gotta stop doing it. But I think Nooblet's got beef with me. I'm starting to think that's the case. Anyway, 15 minutes on the clock. Pyromancer getting pulled by the Sunbreakers, but Eclipse looking to contest, and it's not looking great for the Rizzler. Has to dash away, so going to be a free Pyromancer for the Sunbreakers.
See, they're actually taking care of what they didn't do last game. They got a Pyromancer. They fought for Beacon at least at the minimum this time. So they're looking. They knew what they did. They didn't focus the objectives as Stanaway picked up by the Rizzler.
Ooh, through the Cosmos, chasing down the Rizzler, and Rizzler going to pay for his transgressions there. Killing spree for Virtually, who's really deep, and now Yeet will take the fight. Of course they will. They got the health advantage, and it's going to prove to pay off as Yeet will pick up Vert. WOLFDOTSON will get chased out by Redneck Yoda, a Geb with ambitions. It's not what you want to stay around and toy with.
Yeet's on. It's a very unfortunate item tiding for the Rat with Vert because he does have that Soul Eater that isn't even halfway stacked yet, whereas Yeet's sitting on his trans being upgraded fully. He's got his Hydras online. He's sitting very, very powerful right now.
TheCasualOne and Phoenix trading some casual blows. You know,
this is Soul Lane in a nutshell. This is Soul Lane in a nutshell.
But what I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to ask you for your thoughts on, is I feel like TheCasualOne has played very well, considering how much pressure was put on them, especially early on in this game.
You would definitely think there's a bigger lead on the Sun Wukong with how much they focused him. I think the Eclipse knew that they had to that he was going to get ran at again, if not harder, especially on the Sun Wukong of Phoenix, who is going a very much different build than what I'm used to seeing on these Sun Wukongs. The Archdruid's Fury coming out, not something you typically see in the first or second item. I could be mistaken. I'm not known to play solo lane, but definitely different than what I've seen from all the games played of Sun Wukong, who is a very popular solo laner currently in this current meta. And Mulan sitting on a Soul Eater finish with a Glad Shield as he's being gone on by Vert for probably the 10th time this game.
Yeet's here for some backup this time, and Vert not going to be able to get away. That's not what Vert wanted there. Certainly, Crusher paid a big price in that. Big deal in that. Phoenix has to use Somersault Cloud for some safety, and will be able to get away. Defender of Olympus, just to be sure, and Phoenix gives a polite greeting to Stanaway, gets out the nice silverware, but Eclipse looking to wreck some plates, step back in, look for Stanaway and Phoenix, tear the veil, opens things up, and separates. Phoenix already used that Somersault Cloud. Now the lights are turned off too. This party is a disaster. The Phoenix is able to get out the front door somehow, right in the face of Eclipse. So they turn their attention to WOLFDOTSON, who's stuck in that blue buff pit, looking to try to get Flicker, but must have used Flicker to get closer. Uses it now, but it's a little too late. The burn will clean up WOLFDOTSON. Phoenix returns full health to help out Stanaway, but Eclipse do the wise thing and step away after succeeding by having things handed to them.
What a lot to unpack. The Gebel being beads by the Merlin, still falling. That Crusher timing could not have been more perfect for Yeet on that Cleo. Another big item as we're sitting here, and Vert still is sitting with an unstacked Soul Eater. He's trying his hardest to get that stacked in time, but going a stacking item that late in the game, that's what you're kind of worrying about, is how quickly you can get it stacked this late in the game when you have the item timings of this Cleo with the Crusher, the Hydra, the fully built trans. He's sitting so powerful, and he's also sitting 3-0 and 5. No slouch.
Not at all. I mean, calmer game, but Cleo's a different character. I mean, you can still make those hyper-aggressive playmaker maneuvers, especially come super late game. It's just not something you're going to see at that 18-minute mark on a Cleo traditionally, and it's being played well, just like you said. I mean, currently about 19 minutes around the corner. It's a nice score. I'm looking for some things to be changed up, especially from Sunbreakers. Keep the advantage up, keep the pressure up, and not what's happening here. Virtually trying to change that, however, does land a ACookieNamedJoe and will find it. But Nobo might get picked up. Could be an ADC for ADC. It is, but Redneck Yoda here to break up the chain and back up Yeet. And Virtually is in trouble after the Cataclysm can flurry. Find it. The Gep shield's there. Unfortunately timed with the Aegis. Now back up, lands in and Stanaway, and that's enough for Eclipse to hit the road.
That Geb shield coming in very, very clutch for Yeet there. Like I said, probably 10 times before, but Redneck Yoda, as we see, he still finds YeetOnDaNaeNae on the backline. Vert does.
Oh, I hope Redneck Yoda just smashed his mouse. Muted, of course. Politely, of course, but smashed his mouse. Unlucky that he was still around. Redneck Yoda actually blinking forward, buying time for the Rizzler to get there, but has to step back to keep the Rizzler safe. So things just are unlucky currently for Redneck Yoda, trying to make plays happen, but they're just not currently an option. With 20 minutes are on the clock, Mental, we've had a really calm game in objectives. There's a lot of zeros up there. I mean, Pyromancer's been the only the only standout. At some point, that's got to give.
Exactly. Like I talked about it last game. There's not even like a chance Gold Free has even spoken about by the looks of things. They don't even have it very warded. I think wards are on the red team side of CookieNamedJoe has it for his rotations.
We do have to take a quick break, so we'll be right back in the Smite Draft League. Sorry for the chaos. Vibe check. We're cool. We're back. 8 to 10, 21 minutes around the corner. Currently, Divine Division, Sunbreakers versus Eclipse. Mental, while we were taking a break, we had some time to think. And if you are Sunbreakers, if you're Eclipse, how can you break this game open? Because things have been remarkably close, remarkably calm, with really emphasis on these small engagements. We just saw one in duo. We saw one in solo. Actually, hang on, because first objective. So sneaky,
yeah,
almost caught me off guard.
say.
I'm so happy a Gold Fury being taken. I'm ecstatic. Who's going to get it, though? Sunbreakers, but Stanaway could be the one in trouble. NoboFish not far behind. ACookieNamedJoe going to find one on the Stanaway. Eclipse could step up and look to get Nobo as well. WOLFDOTSON had the split from Phoenix, and virtually is even further behind that. So a Sunbreakers full retreat. And it looks like Eclipse really want this. Now Vert goes to the sky. Could look to land on the back line, but they're pretty healthy, so just has to instantly dash away. Not worth the risk for virtually. And Eclipse will take some time to back up. Sunbreakers with a nice disengage.
As I was legitimately about to say as you were talking, Gold Fury would have been my next call if I were either one of these teams to start getting these objectives cleared, get your gold up, get that advantage, and start getting aggressive ward coverage, especially if you're Eclipse with this team comp they have with Yeet on this a Cleo that has what's more like a spy, and then you have the Rizzler on this artillery as they're picking up Pyromancer.
Sunbreakers get the steal of it. Eclipse just completely caught sleeping on that one. Sunbreakers were able to W key and steal it right away. That has to be a frustrating steal for Eclipse. It's always the sneaky ones that really put a pain in the back of somebody's neck.
It's plays like that you know that Vert, like especially Vert there, because those were his acorns that he threw to steal that. They washed off game one, and you can tell that they are not pressed about it whatsoever. They have clear mentals. They're moving forward. They're getting these objectives. They stole away a Pyromancer, which is more money in their pocket. They're trying to be like, okay, let's reset. Let's move forward. We're just in a game one scenario now.
I don't think there's enough you can say about how impressive it is to turn that mental around. TheCasualOne does deal with a 1v2 fairly nicely, actually gets the better of them and makes them both back away. No interest in continuing the fight, no matter how it would have gone. So TheCasualOne really has fought back and only died twice despite all the pressure. 23 minutes on the clock, 8 to 11, and 2,300 gold sits the advantage for Sunbreakers. We'll see if Beacon can turn things around for either side. Eclipse going to try to get aggressive in response to Sunbreakers, all standing in the ring. TheCasualOne in a bit of trouble on the slam down. Phoenix couldn't quite find it. Stanaway tried to follow up, but Sunbreakers actually miscommunication. They backed up after the fact. So now they're really split, and their damage has not had a cohesive target in quite a few seconds. And Rizzler actually dashing in on Phoenix, gets caught out by Virtually, however, trying to escape, gets taunted back in. They're still split. WOLFDOTSON still in trouble. Virtually lands back to company NoboFish to clean up Yeet. So despite significant miscommunication, from my mind, on Sunbreakers, they are all able to walk away.
That was one of the craziest fights I've seen in a while. You had just missing abilities by a hair. You had Phoenix all the way at the back of the tier 2 as his team was retreating. The Beacon fight that went Yoda in completely alone, dove straight in the middle of 3, still alive somehow on the scab. Yeah, just shows divine division. I know I can't say it enough, but I love the division for this reason of how chaotic it is in these fights.
It's always one thing you can count on. And ooh, look at this, a sneaky play. Ward coverage supports this beautifully. So for Sunbreakers, we'll see how long it takes Eclipse to notice what's going on. They were looking at the Titans. I think they're seeing it now. They're like, wait, where are the Sunbreakers? They're doing Fire Giant. It's at a quarter.
They're running as
They're
fast
not
as
going to
they
get
no
there in time,
way.
though. Fire Giant goes to the Sunbreakers sneakily at 25 minutes.
I think Joe
Eclipse
is
will
on
get the Titan advantage,
the
though.
Titan,
But
though, yeah.
is that worth it, though? I mean,
Not even close.
An early Fire Giant isn't the end of the world, but giving it away that for free, you cannot afford to let happen. They should get the Primal off the back of that, which will be nice, but, I mean, it's not a Fire Giant.
See, Fire Giant pre, like, 28, 30 minutes, I think it's easier to handle than, say, a 30-minute, 32, 33-minute Fire Giant. Just because if they don't clear the tier 2 towers, they kind of wasted it. A lot of teams don't really, they kind of stay in flat-footed, they farm, they take the Fire Giant, they're like, whoo, we took the Fire Giant, and now what do we do next? But then you see Vert split pushing in right, they're pushing down left, they're looking for these towers.
They're going to get the tier 1 for free. Walk aggressively at the tier 2. We'll see if Eclipse decides to put up a soft defense, Virtually, notably missing from action currently for the Sunbreakers as they step up to the tier 2 tower. Everybody but the Rizzler will be there to contest at this tier 2. They're not going to go too crazy. Wisely going to step up unless there's an opening created by Yeet. Good damage on the Phoenix, but just Phoenix, so no kill potential. Virtually will be solding the Pyromancer in the meantime, and should be able to get it. So for Sunbreakers, worth it so far. They got a tier 2. They got themselves a Pyro. Gonna have some bombs in pocket to clean up the tier 1. Maybe look at the tier 2 in mid even. Gold lead is starting to significantly get out of hand. 5,600 for the Sunbreakers, and Eclipse actually shockingly so, stepping very far up, almost got caught into a fight. Yeet in a lot of trouble, dealing with virtually and gonna get dropped after the lights go out. Not what Yeet needed to do. Now the Sunbreakers are looking really good at this tier 2. Now standing at the Phoenix line.
Vert's looking very, very good on this rat. He is full control over this character. You can tell it's one of his comfort picks that he kind of hides away.
Wow. What a taunt there from Stanaway. Mental pulled in 2, but there was no follow-up, which must be frustrating, but Virtually's here to turn things around, and they're going to find a kill. A cookie named Joe, and WOLFDOTSON going to find one on Redneck Yoda. So Eclipse very much on the back foot. They're staring at Game 3 in the face. And Sunbreakers are pedal to the metal, not playing around. They're going to step at the duo side. Phoenix Rizzler gets some good damage across, but they're going to lose that Phoenix as well. So that's 2 Phoenixes in the dirt.
They're looking for a third.
I'm impressed by Sunbreakers. They're not playing games. They're not taking unnecessary chances so far. But now with the Eclipse stepping up to defend this Phoenix, things could turn around. Speaking of Phoenix, he's in trouble, has to get out of there. But they will get all 3 Phoenixes, and that is a tough, tough mountain to climb for any team.
I don't disagree there. I talked about it, the Fire Giant, the pre-20, the pre-30-minute Fire Giant, what they can get out of it, and I don't think they could have got anything more out of it.
No, it would have been difficult, but look at what that's put us at. It's 28 minutes, 12 to 11. Nearly 11,000 for Golden Experience. That's an absurd amount. EFG will be around the corner, and it's hard to deny that Sunbreakers will be at a nearly impossible spot for Eclipse to contest for this first EFG with all the Phoenixes being down.
And you look at the player damage as well. You're sitting at Phoenix at the top, and then you have the next 3 are all Eclipse. So I think they're just taking these objectives correctly, taking their buildings, taking their fights properly, and they're showing that they came calm and collected in the game too. Looking at a game 3.
Yeah, which, I mean, you can't say enough really about how impressive that is. You really can't. It's such a difficult thing to do. I mean, speaking from this perspective, I don't know if I would be able to handle that the same way. But for Eclipse, they've got to stay alive. They still have to play the game. Virtually going to run into Cookie Named Joe and get a big pick to find a Rampage. That was something Eclipse could not afford. They need a Cookie Named Joe in these defenses. AMC is a pretty decent character to defend with the way the hives work, the way Honey can be utilized. You really needed to not lose your ADC there.
And here's an Oni Fury coming out, which Oni Fire Waves are just very, very hard to kill. Even as characters, those waves are tough. And you have those in 3 lanes coming at you. It's not fun. And that sets up for this next Fire Giant very nicely for Sunbreakers.
With the EFG about to spawn up, Eclipse will have to make decisions here. Will there be any light contest? We do see that Yeet's lurking, prepared to maybe be the one to do it. No vision set up from Sunbreakers yet to be present of it, so it's not an awful time to be Yeet. But Sunbreakers haven't started the EFG yet. It looks like they're kind of clearing things out, doing just that, warding up. With how early Yeet was there, this is a good position to be in
For a
for the
steal.
Cleo. I mean, he's been there for so long. They're going to start up the EFG now. The big key here will be timing for this Cleo. You cannot be too early. You will get picked off. Stepping up, it's at a quarter. Can see health now. It's getting low. Tear the Veil is going to begin. Here goes the play. Can they get it? Yes, they can. How well played can you get? Yeet does it perfectly and escapes casually. That's unbelievably huge for Eclipse. They needed that so bad.
I think it honestly saved the game for them. They're still in this for that. Considering how the game
that would have been
is
game
for them, that would have definitely been game. They're sitting with 3 Fire Waves, Oni Fire Waves coming at them. They're on their back foot. Now they have an EFG to keep them healthy, keep them fighting, allowing them to defend this Titan siege a lot more efficiently.
Mid Phoenix going to respawn, should be instantly killed by the Sunbreakers as they're postured to do so, but they're giving up a lot of poke in doing so. Stanaway already forced out. They didn't even get the Mid Phoenix. There are fire minions present, so Eclipse has to defend one way or another. They want to get as many Phoenixes up as they can, and EFG is a good way to do it. This is usually an impossible spot to play back from. Losing all 3 Phoenixes like that, there was Oni waves pushing, but Yeet did it. First game, it was a pentakill for victory. This game, it was a Fire Giant steal to keep him in the game. Yeet just really showing up today for Eclipse.
He's playing out of his mind right now. Completely. That Fire Giant Seal is nothing more than crafted perfection. I think he was a little tiny bit early on the first Veil, but then he had the second one there for it. He get 2 charges. Now all 3 Phoenixes are up. They're sitting. They're pushing these waves back. They're sitting in a lot better position than they did before that Fire Giant. I think it saved him completely. Kept him.
Where do
in
you
this
go from
game.
here? If you are the Sunbreakers, you're kind of at an awkward spot because the advantages you had. I mean, they're, aside from some 3K pots you'll get to quicker, the main advantages that you work so hard for this whole game are gone.
It is definitely a weird, awkward spot to be in because it's at this point in the game where gold really doesn't matter too much. They don't even have their bomb anymore. They failed their bomb. The bomb missed. So now Sunbreakers are just in a very, very weird game state where they're kind of like, okay, well, we've been ahead of this whole game. We had an advantage. We lost. EFG got stolen, but we pushed anyway instead of letting the Fire Giant back up. They should have waited another. I don't think they should have pushed right there with how they did it. Stanaway got poked out way too quickly. NoboFish wasn't there yet. There's a really big miscommunication there as they've been so together all this game.
They're also leaving a lot of time for Eclipse to lick their wounds. I mean,
well, those Phoenixes are just gaining health as we speak.
yeah, and they're sitting there with EFG. They've been allowed to kind of just sit back, free farm their own jungle. Got a couple waves because their waves are still pretty pushed up. So
one thing I
Sunbreakers
did
has
want to
really opened
mention
the
that we
door.
have downtime, it seems like. I would like to point my attention to the Merlin. Definitely an interesting build coming out. E-Staff, Breastplate of Determination, Tablet, Book of Toth, not 20, only I think 30 stacks. I think that's 30 stacks on that book tablet. And he's only sitting at 13,000 player damage as well. Kind of at the bottom of the charts. You think of Merlin, he'd be doing pumping out numbers. When you pick a Merlin pick, as we see Eclipse getting a lot more aggressive here.
Decided they wanted a tier 2. They had EFG. They haven't, you know, to their credit, they hadn't seen anybody in a while, so they may as well push out. They were in base, prepared to defend a siege. And when it didn't come, they said, oh yeah, all right, well, let's go get a tier 2 then. Rizzler sticking back to defend, and Phoenix deep, so will not be able to sneak anything while Agni is there. And Eclipse is just, you know, I don't want to harp, but Sunbreakers, they've really just kind of allowed Eclipse to casually strut back into this game.
It definitely wasn't a forced back in this game. I think it was almost like you said, given to them almost. It's kind of unfortunate because they were looking to go to a game 3 with this. And right now it's back to almost even, I would say, with only a little health on the Phoenixes to differ and a couple tier 2s. But this late in the game, tier 2's health on the Titan really doesn't mean too much.
Pyro going to get dropped, so bomb and pocket for the Sunbreakers. It's on the Ratatasker, so virtually could look to drop it potentially off of through the Cosmos. The next EFG can be contested easily by Eclipse. They really don't have much stopping them from doing so. The only thing they don't have this time is they don't have a very, very, very early YeetOnDaNaeNae prepared to steal it. But there is a route, could take a deep route from mid in for a steal, and I wouldn't put it past Yeet after what we saw in the last fight.
The only thing that they're missing right now is ward coverage. Sunbreakers have a complete view of Eclipse as they approach this Fire Giant. But it looks like they're trying to fully contest a 5v5 with this.
EFG is going to pop up. We'll see how long it takes for the dance to fully come to a conclusion. Just some poke thrown out so far from WOLFDOTSON. Eclipse is prepared. They are in the best spot they've been to fight in a while. Keep your eye in the mid lane as virtually split pushing, as it looks like Eclipse noticed it quick and looked to initiate. They've already poked away WOLFDOTSON through the Cosmos used. Now it's a really split fight for Sunbreakers, and Eclipse have a bit better positioning, but now they split too. Virtually not in a spot to do damage quite yet. WOLFDOTSON poked out. Virtually going to fight his way in. Look for the casual one. Can't find it. Now the poke going to find their way on to Sunbreakers. Eclipse in a great spot. Just playing off the mistakes and now forcing Sunbreakers out. They may not have gotten a kill there, but they did not need it. The damage was done when they split so heavily. Virtually goes after Redneck Yoda. Taunt to follow. But there's so much damage from Eclipse. Every time somebody dashes in, goes aggressive, they just pay for it with significant poke. Now Stanaway, forced back to base, does have Defender of Olympus up. EFG below half health, virtually going to look for that steal, but it looks like Eclipse is prepared. They're not dropping a lot of abilities. Blink available. There it goes from virtually. They just walk out of the pit. An incredibly risky call. They still get the EFG. TheCasualOne shuts down virtually, but they lost the Rizzler. They lost Agni, and Sunbreakers may have a new opening. Stinger used from ACookieNamedJoe that will find the kill onto Phoenix. It's up to Yeet. It's up to Redneck Yoda. TheCasualOne has to back currently. Cleo going to be alone with 3, but does have the damage to survive. Nobo and WOLFDOTSON could both get picked up, and TheCasualOne knows that, actually comes back and finds WOLFDOTSON. Huge misstep there to let that happen.
You know, I almost say in my mind, I was thinking that the Divine Dance wasn't going to be that long on this Fire Giant, but it is such a back and forth battle this game. This is so close.
I love games like this. They're the most fun to cast, and now you see why. Yeet gonna find Nobo, and it's gonna be a double kill for Yeet. Stanaway drops 2. A deicide finds Sunbreakers. The mistakes have piled and piled and piled, and it's an episode of Hoarders now. Mental, this has become a problem.
It really has. Now they're looking at taking a Phoenix off of the Sunbreakers. I mean, Eclipse has fought their way back into this game, and they're coming forth with as much as they can.
Virtually will make one last-ditch effort for defense to buy some time, but could get picked up, well, thankfully. Or Sunbreakers get away from that tear at the Veil. Phoenix will step up, but not see Yeet in time. Mid-Phoenix dropped by Eclipse, Mental. They're driving the game now.
As one of my fellow casters would say, in the driver's seat, as someone you would say typically, but it is definitely been a back and forth battle, and now they're looking at their own Oni Fury on the side of Eclipse to throw fire Oni waves back at Sunbreakers.
This should be a clean Oni Fury, which will mean Oni waves pushing up for Eclipse and giving them plenty of breathing room, plenty of playmaking potential. There is still a tier 2 in the duo lane that they'll want to deal with this Oni wave, most likely, or you can always get creative around it. Pyromancer will get picked up from virtually, but it might be time to start calling the retreat and preparing for the siege, because Eclipse is marching down that duo lane, and they have no intent on stopping.
And you see they're trying to attempt to get the tier 2 health of the Titan away from Sunbreakers to even the playing field when going for the siege, so that they don't have to worry about that slight bit of health giving them problems as they siege into this Titan room.
Standing at the Phoenix line, Oni waves pushing up. I'm looking for Eclipse to go in with his Oni wave. It's a pretty simple play here. Virtually actually going to try to make something happen and get a big pick, 100 to 0s. YeetOnDaNaeNae. That's something Eclipse did not want to happen. They've been playing off that damage from that Cleo significantly so. And you can see, because they're no more interest in sieging. All right, we're cool. We're cool.
Definitely, Vert's doing so much damage on this Ratatasker. If we look at the player damage, he's sitting 3rd on the line underneath the Agni and Yeet on that Cleo. We're sitting at the bottom of the list. You see AMC, you see Merlin, you see X-Ball, and then finally there's TheCasualOne on the front of both of the cores from Sunbreakers. I mean, are they positioning-wise? I just think that they're not being able to get their damage in.
It's in that awkwardness that we talked about, that really, where did they go from here? That was mostly a Sunbreakers thing for a while. I feel like that kind of hits Eclipse there. They got to that Phoenix line, and they ran up all excited, and then they kind of looked up at the skyscraper, and they're like, oh, man, what now? They don't have that kind of initiation tool on their damage the way that virtually has it. I mean, they've got Redneck Yoda, but the problem with that is there is so much damage that if you take that risk, if you send Redneck Yoda in on a Blink Cataclysm, he could just die.
There's so much damage being pumped out with the pen coming off of NoboFish that is a genuine worry, along with the fact that there is the Mulan on Eclipse. They don't have that traditional really, really tanky guy to jump in and just tank and tank and tank, whereas TheCasualOne on this Mulan, if played wrong, will just get blown up.
Ooh, that stunted hit on Stanaway. This fight could have taken a drastic turn, but just barely off the mark. Sunbreakers stepped up really aggressive. They've got virtually watching that mid lane, so Eclipse and Sunbreakers will both full send for this EFG, this This is a make or break EFG at 40 minutes. These are usually times where we see an EFG decide the game, and it'd be easy for Eclipse to make a play happen, but it's easy until Virtually does what we see now. But Virtually is an award this time. Look at the way they turned. Yeet's gonna look for Virtually, gets the silence off. Virtually gets the dash. One tear the veil, no good. Honey gonna find a home. Virtually looks for a heal. Yeet still chases down. Gonna find it. That's massive. NoboFish in trouble too. The casual one will get credit for that one. Stanaway dashes away. TheCasualOne blinks forward, looking for Stanaway to split to the side. Rizzler gonna find the kill on Stanaway. WOLFDOTSON gonna be alone for the Rizzler. Phoenix will get one, but it's damage done already. That's a deicide. No EFG needed. It's time to run it down. It's time to end the game. The Sunbreakers fought and they fought and they fought. They came in with a new mindset. They didn't care what happened game one. They gave it all they had, but in the end, at 42 minutes, Eclipse was able to just take full control. They walk into the throne room, fire minion waves in tow, not phased, ready to celebrate. Eclipse take the set 2-0. Every time I see that Eclipse logo now with you at my side in the desk, Mental, I just think about the switch to Wheelix, and I imagine you're jealous. But the big things on the table here are Sunbreakers. Man, did they fight. And they fought. They did everything they could, but it just wasn't enough. Eclipse was just, they had the answers.
Not only did they have the answers, it's Yeet. He just played out of his mind, stealing the first Fire Giant, the first EFG, keeping them in the game, and then also just their performance on that Cleo. It was quite awesome. I mean, don't get me wrong, the entire team of Eclipse did amazing to come out of a really shitty spot. Yeah, I love these teams so much, and I am a bit favored of that Eclipse logo because it was my team last season, and I thank you, Anthony, for having me on this set and surprise cast. I do appreciate the opportunity. You and NoobLet.
Oh, 100%. I'm glad you got to take part of it, and like you said, thank you to NoobLet for being production for the set. A lot to look at for both teams, plenty to VOD review, but the big thing, as always, is Eclipse was able to take the set. Sunbreakers still have a fighting chance, and playoffs around the corner. Stick around in Smite Draft League for all the possible action. Once again, my name has been AnthonyMalum. I've been play-by-play for you. MentalDepressed joined me, and a big thank you, as always, to iNooblet. Join the Discord, follow the YouTube, be on Twitch, be ready, because the playoffs are around the corner. We'll see you next time on the Smite Draft League.